hard. What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the Wise Take MLB DFS Wise stream. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013, and I am joined once again by the GOAT, the true OG that those of you know as Paulie D. You can find him on Twitter at Paulie with 8 Ds. Paulie, what's happening?
I let your boy when you see him in the skirt.
all day. Tough slate we have, man. Very, very tough slate. We had a really awesome basketball slate. As of right now, you and I are pretty vested in these late games, so I don't think either of us are cashing any teams. But our slate hasn't really started yet, so we'll see what happens. At the night. As far as baseball goes, this is a tough one, man. I wrote the article. That's the stuff that I'm on at the moment. I was looking forward to talking to you and kind of talking this slate out because there are a lot of options. It is big. It's long. It's hard. And, everything is separated by like a hair.
Word is bond, indeed. I've been really struggling with pitching like the last 3 nights out. So maybe you cover that and I'll take care of it because I've been But, the last 3 nights, I think my highest score from a pitcher was like a 16, and I've had multiple negatives, and it's been brutal. But I don't know. I think there's a couple obvious ones on this slate that seem a little too easy and obvious. But let's talk this thing out. What you doing?
Let's get it. So for pitching, we got some guys up top, right? So we've got. Obviously, what's his cock? Yu Darvish, who I expect to be the most popular, and he does appear to be in one of, if not the best spots. He's got the Cardinals, who've been striking out a lot. Number 1, number 2, they're just getting off a long layover. Number 3, the game is in Wrigley, and there's winds blowing in. So he appears to be the optimal play. However, we also have Carlos Carrasco against the Pirates. We've got Kenta Maeda at home this time against the Brewers, who are still third in strikeouts to righties. And then we have Blake Snell going up against the Yankees. Although we only expect Snell to get somewhere between 70 and 75 pitches, this is a different Yankees lineup. No Aaron Judge, no Giancarlo Stanton. So a few different things to weigh out. Darvish is clearly the optimal option in my eyes, and as of right now, he's the one that I feel the most comfortable with. However, I respect the fact that all those 3 other guys, and I think the ownership will see as Maeda, then Carrasco, then Snell, are all going to be significantly lower owned than you, Darvish. What are your thoughts on a situation?
Yeah, Darvish has been good, and this is a good matchup. He's fine, and there's a couple expensive stacks that I like, but I'm not desperate for salary with most of the teams that I like. You know what I mean? There's a handful of value plays with the expensive guys that I like on the slate, so I think I can get him if I pair him with somebody kind of in the mid to low tier. I do like him, but I also do like Carlos Carrasco and Blake Snell on the high end. So if I'm building a team and I don't got enough for Darvish and I got to settle for Snell, I'm all right with that. If I got to settle for Carrasco, I'm all right with that too. But those are the 3 guys that will probably be, one of them will be on every one of my teams.
Yeah, I do agree in that we have pitchers with such upside that you're going to want at least one of these. This isn't a slate, and the mid-tier is not great to me. This isn't a slate where I feel like, I'm just going to pay down for I just don't feel it. I think that'll be low-owned if you want to try it, but it's not one where I want to, on DraftKings, I want at least one of these guys. Right now, I have Maeda slightly over Carrasco. My concern with Maeda is he hasn't thrown more than 85 pitches. So when we're talking about ceiling, a guy like Carrasco will go out there and throw over 100. Snell is another one who's kind of capped, but his strikeout upside is on a different level, in my opinion. The numbers won't necessarily say it, but I think Blake Snell is just fucking nasty when he's on. So again, right now I have Darvish the most, probably followed by Maeda, but I am going to have shares of the other guys just to make sure because they do have that type of upside, and I think they will be significantly lower owned. As far as the mid-tier goes, Dylan Cease leads in ownership. I expect him to be a popular SP2 candidate for those who think they can get away with value bats, which there are a few we'll discuss. But Cease has a matchup against the Tigers. Tigers are first in strikeouts against righties. Cease himself has not looked great from a numbers perspective. On a results basis, he's gotten by. If you look at the numbers, not really impressive. A 16% K rate, an XFIP in the mid to high 4s. So a couple question marks, but we do know his ownership is going to be high. With that said, we've got the I always forget the guy's first name, Gonsolin from Tony Gonsolin of the Dodgers. We've also got Masahiro Tanaka against the Rays. It seemed that he's dominated. However, Tanaka has not thrown more than 60-something pitches in a game. And the Yankees, I think, if anything, he may be able to go 70 today. What are your thoughts on his mid-tier?
So I feel like Tanaka's pitch count is built into his price, and I kind of like him. He's always done well against Tampa. I'd rather it be in Tampa, but I think the strikeouts will be there, even if one or two guys do take him deep. He's just had a lot of success with this lineup. But like you said, ceiling, it's not going to be that high, although I don't know how many of the guys beneath those three up top we talked about have 20 pluses in them. So I'm like, I do like him, and where he's priced, it kind of fits. For some of the same reasons we like Darvish, I've got a little bit of interest in Ponce de Leon. Don't think he's fully stretched out, but similar to Tanaka. I think 70 to 80s in the books, and wind blowing in Wrigley, just low total kind of game. I think he does all right, and when the Cubs don't hit home runs, they do be striking out a little bit. There was somebody else I had my eye on. Ponce. Oh yeah, I mean it's risky, but I'd consider Marco Gonzalez at 6'8" against the Dodgers, although they've been pretty good lately. But I don't mind taking lefties against the Dodgers.
Yeah, I thought the mid-tier was kind of weak, especially once we lost Peterson. I know before the show that was the first thing you would ask me. He gets scratched, and I was saying,
that's what I was looking for. Yep.
Yeah, that sucked. The Marlins are still messing around with their lineup. There's days where it looks pretty good, and there's days like today where it doesn't look all that great. And on top of that, they've been terrible against lefties, striking out at a much higher clip. So I had my eye on him as well. He was the one that I liked the most. I mean, Cisse, I don't mind, but like you said, I'm concerned about the ceiling here. And if I'm not going to get a ceiling, then why pay all this money for a mid-tier? Why not go down and find like a bottom feeder in the low tier and just hope your SP1 takes you there? Or just find the money to spend up and get two guys that have a high ceiling. So I wasn't really on the mid-tier guys. I'll acknowledge Cisse for cash games. I think it's fine as a block. I think he makes sense in terms of optimal builds if you're able to build the bats you like. But I'm with you, man. As we get into the value tier, I'm looking at guys to take a shot with. You mentioned Marco Gonzalez. I would tell you that, that's crazy against the Dodgers, except I think what I might be on the most, one of my favorite plays might be a little crazier, and that is just judging by ownership. Maybe not. Maybe you'll see what I'm seeing. But I like Zach Eflin against the Red Sox. We've got the highest total on the board in that game. I know the Red Sox and Phillies will both be very popular. The Red Sox have a few guys like Devers, who was underpriced at 4.4, and the profiles, Paulie, look amazing for the Red Sox. Eflin really throws a sinker and a slider, and those profiles for the first 5 hitters are just phenomenal to all pitches. However, if you look at the 2020 trends, what they've done so far, this is a very strikeout-friendly lineup for Eflin, who's been awesome to start the season. Now, it's night and day, lefty versus righty. But if you look at the lefties in this lineup for Boston, you've got Mitch Moreland, you've got Verdugo, as really the only lefties that you're intimidated by. After that, you've got, what's his name, the Asian fella? And
Zhu Wei Lin.
Yeah, Zhu Wei Lin. And so, to me, it's going to provide me with some leverage. It's one of the pitchers on the slate that does have that 20-point upside. However, Vegas is completely against me. The sharps are on the over from the sharp report that I've heard. The public's on the over. The line has moved from 10.5 to 11.5. I do recognize we have winds blowing out to right field, so it's a really, really dicey one. But on a slate where I can't really decipher much between the other, why not go with one that's going to completely kind of leverage the field and just be real different? What are your thoughts on Eflin?
I don't know. I do like the fact that there's not many lefties. It's about where it ends, I feel like Boston is going to be
At some
better than
point.
what they've shown so
Yes.
far.
Yes.
Yeah, like Philly's bullpen's bad, but there's not a ton of choices. Like I don't really give a shit about the total and where the public's going and all that. That doesn't make me like them anymore. Less really. Like if anything, it's kind of interesting because it's going to be really low. I would say, why not consider Zach Godley then as well? It's kind of the same exact situation. You got three lefties in the Philly lineup, and Zach Godley's kind of that same. Gets murked by lefties. Little more, I guess splits neutral, but similar spot, right? So if you're gonna look at Zach, you might as well look at the other Zach too. But it's super risky in my opinion.
It's extremely risky. I think for me, the main difference of Godley versus Eflin, number one, I do think Eflin is a better pitcher overall. But number two, it's more about, again, following the trends. The Phillies really aren't striking out. They're like bottom in the league in strikeouts to lefties and righties this year. Meanwhile, the Red Sox are one of the top against lefties and righties. And again, I did leave out Devers. He's obviously the biggest threat that I'm worried about. I think he's the best left-handed hitter that they have. But all in all, they've got four lefties. Three of them you're intimidated by. One, what was that?
I say he's been terrible this year, Devers.
Yes. So again, it's just like in cash games, I would play the shit out of Boston. I would play the shit out of Philly. And in tournaments, I still kind of like Philly. We'll get into the bats. But in tournaments, to be a little different, I couldn't make up my mind. I really didn't like too much any of these guys. I'm looking for ceilings, and I think he's one of the guys that stand out as someone that has a pretty high ceiling for the price. And if he gets his ass kicked today, I'll be on an island fucking moping the rest of the night. But it's been that kind of day anyway for me today. What are your thoughts on someone in his area that I think is going to be a little bit more popular? Corbin Burns. The Twins are obviously a team we don't like to pick on, but this Corbin Burns guys does have nasty stuff. He's last year out of the bullpen, he had a K rate in the 30s. It's translated so far through long relief role this year. They're going to slowly try to stretch him out. From what I understand, they're going to put him in the rotation, and he's been one of their better pitchers overall. Just hasn't really been a true starter. He seems to be the trendy cheap guy. It seems like most people are going CK and above, or they're grabbing or they're taking stabs on him. What are your thoughts on him?
Honestly, I've got some interest in the Twins bats. It made me happy that you said he's going to be popular. I didn't expect that, but I get why. I mean, he's cheaper than Tanaka and like Ponce de Leon, and maybe has a little more strikeout upside, but it's not for me. If I do anything there, it's going to be the bats, Minnesota's.
Yep. No, I think, first of all, it's a DraftKings only. Let's get that out the way, right? Because you're not getting the quality start. It's very unlikely. Unless he's hyper efficient, it's unlikely you're getting the quality start. I don't mind sprinkling him in on DraftKings, but if that's the case, I'm thinking like, okay, this is just going to be a shitty offensive slate if I'm willing to get high exposures on him. So to me, that's another reason I kind of like Eflin, is because I do think that the high-low will give you an advantage over the majority of people who are going to be spending up at pitcher for SP1 and then settling with like Dylan Cease. But I'm with you. I'm not. I don't think it's great. I think it's an option. The Twins haven't been so great the last few days. Burns did okay against them recently, and that was in Milwaukee in a long relief role. But I'm not thrilled about it if you're looking for ceiling. If you think pitching sucks, it's like, yeah, why not? Then I don't think anybody else is good. I'll take my 12, 13 points, whatever you think he can give you. But if you think it's decent, if you think these guys are really going to show some ceiling, then I would suggest finding someone who's got a ceiling a little bit higher. Any other pitchers you want to hit on, or should we go into the bits?
I'm not going to use him, but I will say that the Tigers pitcher, this Tariq Skubal, is one of the top pitching prospects in all of baseball. Not expected to go very deep, but he's not just some scrub lefty that, like we should all run to the White Sox bats for.
I think that's a phenomenal point. Yo, his strikeout numbers, I know it was the minor leagues, but his strikeout numbers in the minor leagues were like something crazy. Like, we're talking like 17 K per nines in certain seasons, like just stuff you don't see every day, It's just... I'm excited to see what he can do.
How many pitches is he expected to throw?
I don't know. Let me see. Let me see if there's any extra note on him that I missed. But
There
I got
is.
the I got the impression that it was very like limited. Google. He's not expected to throw more than 50 pitches. Okay, yeah. So there is a note that he's not expected to throw more than 50 pitches, which is an absolute shame because this would be easy if he was fucking available.
Yeah, I mean, even if it was like 75 and we could get to 5 innings, with not even that we really think the wind's going to really be there, but, in 3 innings, if he gives up 1 run, even if he strikes out 5 or 6, it's not great, but if he could go 12 to 15 batters with 8 strikeouts, like at 6-6, you'd take that. And apparently he's got that kind of strikeout upside. So, well, if I was building 100 teams, I'd put him on 5 to 10%. But if I'm building the 5 to 3 teams I'm probably building, I don't think it's worth it.
I think that's a fair analogy. Let's get into the offenses. And, so we know Philly and Boston are expected to be popular for good reason. We've got winds blowing out to right field, really good hitting environment. It's a great hitting park as it is. Any interest in either of those teams? And if so or if not, explain and then get into some of the offenses that you do like.
So, I did like Boston until I found out they're going to be popular, and then that made me not like them. So, take that for what it's worth, right? Like, my research said that they're a good play, and their lineup played into it a little bit, you know what I mean? But I did like Boston until they became chalky, and then I just said, like, why am I doing this? I'm playing a bad team that's chalk that never ends up good. I'll pick a different spot, but I did have some interest in Boston. I didn't have a ton in Philly. I wouldn't argue with anyone that likes them because I understand why. I just like the other shit better,
To be clear, I think when I said Boston, from ownership projections I've seen with Boston being popular, it's mainly Verdugo and Devers, to be clear. So maybe Moreland, Martinez, these other guys may be lower owned because people don't want to spend the money for them after they haven't been performing. But did want to clear that up because, again, the profiles did, and again, this is coming from someone who's going to be on Eflin, but the profiles did look really good. Again, it's just a matter of, do you want to play the trend that, listen, right now, what's hot is Boston sucking ass. That's what's hot right now. But at some point, we know it's going to end. And when it ends, it's going to end pretty abruptly. So maybe it comes against a guy that they profile well against his pitch type. And the same thing with Eflin. He's got regression coming. I've gotten burned in the past by trying to chase that regression first. And you keep chasing it, and it lasts another fucking 3 weeks. And by that time, I hop off because I've lost all my money chasing them. And then that's when they fucking go nuts. So
Merrill Kelly.
Yeah, Merrill Kelly. Yeah. I still haven't learned, but I'm trying to adapt. I'm trying to change that and ride trends more until it's not there. But and the reason I say that is because I don't want you personally for me to say, oh, Boston's going to be chalk, and that set the perception for you to not play them. Because again, I saw the same statistics that this isn't. If you look at last year's stats, it looks like an awesome spot for Boston.
Yeah.
So I'm on the fence with it. I'm taking a stand one way, but again, we're following ownership projections across multiple places, but nobody's to say that's right. Like Eflin could end up being the chalk today because he's been so fucking good, and Boston's been so bad. So it's like a recency bias versus perception. What is what?
Yeah, what is what? But offenses I do like are Minnesota. This guy Corbin Burns basically just throws like 60%, 95 mile per hour fastballs. Minnesota's got a couple guys that can hit that, like Max Kepler, Polanco, Cruz, even Marwin Gonzalez, Byron Buxton, Alex Avila. I like the Nationals. They're an interesting little team right now because they've got a bunch of value like Luis Garcia and Victor Robles, and as Jubal's not that crazy expensive. Adam Eaton was crazy cheap. They can help you get 2 good pitchers and a nice little 3-man. I've got some interest in the Indians. Franmil the GOAT is red hot right now. And it's normally a pretty solid lineup around him. I don't love, the way the bottom of the lineup played out today, but still, it's against like a rookie pitcher for Pittsburgh that's not very good, and then their bad bullpen, but it's not a great park. I'm all right with that. And then I've got some interest in Toronto. I think this team is kind of waking up. Very good against lefties. Literally everyone in the lineup, except for maybe the last two guys, I have like interest in. I don't really like a ton of offenses. I think I'm gonna throw a sprinkle at Milwaukee. To your point of like not chasing regression, waiting for it to happen. I've been chasing Milwaukee's positive progression and kind of committed. So Milwaukee, Minnesota, Toronto, Washington are like my four favorite teams offensively. And like, I'm not really in love with any of these offenses though,
I mean, it makes sense because we do we at least recognize there's a lot of decent pitchers. Like maybe not decent like for fantasy, but decent enough to where I don't really want to attack them either. And I was having the same issue. That's why I was looking forward to talking to you. And like the only one thing that in my head I was like, I don't think I want to play like too much of the chalk but then again on a slate this big it's kind of hard to figure out, and the only reason I say Philly and Boston is because that's by far the highest total on the slate. Like it stands out like crazy, so just even basic people that know to follow Vegas are going to be going to that game in some way. Maybe it's the Philly side only, I don't know, but I do agree the offenses were very tough to navigate. That's why it took me so long to get my article out. As far as what I think I'm rolling with, one of the offenses I'm going with is Cleveland. They're going up against Pittsburgh, who's got a rookie on the mound. Not the type of prospect that Detroit pitcher looks like he's going to be. And also not stretched out from what I read. Pittsburgh's bullpen's been one of the worst in the league in terms of xFIP. We know the Indians are a high upside team. We expect, you got guys like Francisco Lindor, J-Ram, who I think are being overlooked. We got Franmil the GOAT, who are all powerful enough, capable enough to hit the ball out of that ballpark in Pittsburgh. So it's about looking, okay, this is a team that has upside, and I don't think too many people are going to play them. Another offense I was looking into, initially I was actually on the Toronto train with you, and I still think Toronto's fine. Again, I think that a lot of these offenses are separated by a hair, and none of them are all that great looking. But I ended up switching it to Baltimore because of the lineup that Toronto put out. They got Travis Shaw in there, who's been god-awful. They got him in there against a lefty. And then, like you said, the couple guys on the bottom of the order didn't know much about. Just didn't feel comfortable. The Baltimore side's interesting, especially on DraftKings. There's a catcher, Francisco, leading off. Baltimore's been one of the better offenses so far this season. So just in general, I do think this is a pretty interesting spot for them. One interesting note, Toronto and Baltimore's bullpens have both been a lot better than I think people realize. If you actually look at the xFIP, they've both been a lot better than people realize. But I will have some Baltimore on DraftKings. They help as a glue team to kind of get you, like you said, an offense that you can find cheap enough to get two expensive pitchers if that's what you want to do. The other team is the New York Mets, and I hate to go back to the Mets after they just went nuts, and today they're going to let me down. But this Humberto Mejia guy destroyed them in the last time he saw them. It was the only appearance he's had in the majors. Only went 64 pitches. He struck out like 6 Mets, but it took him 2 1/3 inning to get it done. He's now going to play in Miami against the Mets. A little bit of a different offense. They had some injuries at the time, and the Marlins bullpen has also been one of the worst. Last time they did it, they threw 2 rookies back-to-back at the Mets. This time it's just going to be him, and then their bullpen's just going to be unleashed. And their bullpen has been terrible. We saw the Mets continue to just pour it on them last night. So I do like going back to the Mets. The Dodgers, I know you talked about Marco Gonzalez. It's a similar situation to Eflin, where the Dodger team also profiles extremely well against Marco Gonzalez's pitch type. Throws a lot of sinkers, throws a lot of sliders. The difference of Boston and Dodgers to me is I feel the Dodgers will be a little lower owned, not by much because they have a very high implied total as well. I think they'll be a little lower owned. It is warm. It's the game is earlier than usual in LA. It's a 5 p.m. or maybe even earlier than that. Actually, I think it's earlier than that. We have a 7, so it's like a 4 p.m. start out in LA for the West Coast, and it's supposed to be in the mid 90s, mid to upper 90s. So I decided to go with the Dodgers over the Red Sox, and what I'm thinking is an ownership play, but very well could not be, and which is why this slate is so hard to project. And then I will have some Phillies. I want some of that game. I felt more comfortable taking the Philly side simply because they don't strike out much. So I expect them to at least put the ball in play. And that's really, again, I don't feel great about any of them either. You know, like even picking 5, it's like the 6, 7, 8 on your list is not that far back from like your number 2 or 3. In some cases, even the number 1. But that's where I'm at. Very, very difficult slate, I thought, but should be a fun one. Should be a fun one. If you have questions, Nations, go ahead and get them in the chat. Me and Paulie are going to do some home runs. Paulie, I will be right back. While you want to start us off with the home runs, I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem. I guess I'll give y'all 3 of them. While he does that dirt. Give me Randall Grichuk again. This guy's pretty hot. He's been historically streaky and historically very good against left-handers. Give me, man, I really don't love a ton on this slate. Give me Max Kepler as my second. And, man, I just had somebody.
Did you give 2 or 3?
I've given 2. I'll just give my last one, and then I want to talk to you about something. I'll take I will take. Man, I'll take C-Dick.
C-Dick against Oswald. His spot just got a whole lot better. Went from seeing a lefty to now seeing a righty that's not that good. I will go. Who are your first 2?
Randall Grichuk and Max Kepler.
Okay. I'm going to go with Michael Conforto, number 1 of the New York Mets. I'm going to go with Anthony Santander, who's been red hot, by the way, of the Baltimore Orioles. And I will go with, I'm going to go, let me just make sure he's in the lineup. I'm going to go with Chris Taylor or Kike. I want to go with Kike. He's batting 8th, and I kind of turned me off, but fuck it. YOLO. I'll go Kike Hernandez against Marco Gonzalez. Patio Joe is in the chat saying that it's extremely humid out there in LA as well.
And it's like 90.
Yes.
Just a small.
And however, there are possible thunderstorms. So take that for whatever it's worth. We do. Oh yeah. The other one thing I forgot to mention about the Dodgers and why I like them is because Mariners bullpen is fucking terrible. Or highest xFIP in the league. All right, hit that like button if you haven't already, guys. Really helps us out. We'll get into some questions. Not a ton so far, so this could be a quick show unless we get him in. Brian Campbell, what's up, Brian? My brother. Carrasco at Pitt sounds good. Oswalt for the Mets. The line only dropped 20 cents. I think he's asking about Oswalt. Oh, yeah, no, he says Oswalt or the Mets bats. You have interest in either of them?
No, actually, no. I really don't have interest in either, but the Mets bats are kind of a squad that you're gonna have to consider anytime they're on a slate the way they're hitting right now. But I really don't have any interest.
Yeah, I mentioned I'm into the Mets bats a little bit. Not any more than the other teams I'm on. Oswalt, I'm not big on his upside. I prefer a lefty against the Marlins. The Marlins are like 3rd or 4th on strikeouts to lefties, but they're not as bad against righties. And Oswalt is just not a big strikeout guy. I'm not crazy about it. Give up 3 homers to the Braves the last time he pitched. So the Mets lost that game 14-1. Just saying.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got. Are the Mets a low-owned stack? I think the Mets will be low. I think they'll be low-owned. Maybe not after what they did yesterday.
No, I think they will.
I agree. After that, it was just Joey's comment, laying down the law. Markakis scratched for Atlanta. Shout out to Tony A for sharing that with us. Paulie, anything in closing before we get out of here, bro?
Yeah, I think you spend up today at pitching. Go lock in those 2 20-plus guys and make it work with those stacks. They're like, none of these, like, even if you go to, like, say, the Dodgers, you don't have to play Bellinger, Muncy, and Betts. You know what I mean? Like, you can go with some of the cheaper guys and just one of those studs and, it still work out. Like, I would put a priority on spending up on the pitching because I think there's a pretty serious separation between the top and the middle.
Fair enough. You heard it from Paulie D. With that said, we're going to get out of here. For myself, the entire Wise Tech Nation, as always, good luck.